We already talked about ratios, and proportions are just a way that we use ratios. So proportion just means that I have two ratios and they are equal to each other. So if we think about two ratios that we are already familiar with, so if we say that we have a ratio of 1/2, and that is equal to a ratio of 2/4. And most of the time when we're using proportions, it's because we don't know part of one of the ratios, but we do know that they're equal, and so we use that to solve. The most common method that we use is the cross multiply method. And that just means that I'm going to take the two parts that are diagonal to each other, and I'm going to multiply them together. And then I'm going to take the other two parts that are diagonal to each other and multiply them together. And if it is a proportion, those two values will be equal. So we can see here that 1/2 is equal to 2/4, and we know that because 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 4 is also 4, and those two numbers are equal. So if we were to solve it when we don't know one of the parts, so let's say that we're still going to use that 1/2, and it's going to be equal to some number over 10. So if we use the cross multiply method, that means I have 2 times x, which is 2x, and that's going to be equal to 1 times 10, which is 10. And then to solve that, I would go ahead and I would undo that 2 times 10. And so the opposite of multiply is divide. So I would divide both sides by 2 to get my final answer of x equals 5. And then if I go back and I replace that, and I put that 5 in there, 2 times 5 would be 10, and 1 times 10 would still equal 10. So I know that I did it correctly. So that is the cross multiply method. Proportions just mean that the two ratios are equal, and we can use cross multiply. There are going to be potentially more challenging versions, but those are something that we would get into as we get into more Algebra 1 topics and ways that we would solve them. But the basic solving method is cross multiply, and it is used regularly throughout math classes throughout the K-12 experience.